This is the very best free hit 34 team for the upcoming FPL game week. Today I'm joined by FPL expert, the BigManBakar's, who's going to be running us through the very best team if you're on free hit this week. Bakar, pleasure to have you back on the channel, my friend. A massive, massive week, of course, for free hitters. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Let's see what team you've built. We're going to go through this player by player, position by position, and see what team we end up with. What's great about doing this on Fantasy Football Hub is that we're going to get a game week rating and a predicted points as well at the end. And we're going to see if that's good or if there is room for improvement. Bakar, let's go. Let's start with the keepers. Who we got?
So in goal, I've gone with Jordan Pickford. I think this is a fairly close call. There are a lot of keepers who are in contention. You can go with someone like Dean Henderson, David Raya. I personally prefer going with Pickford just because I think the Arsenal and the Crystal Palace picks can be utilized elsewhere. And Pickford offers a decent clean sheet chance against Nottingham Forest and could get, a few save points against Liverpool. To be very honest, none of the goalkeepers really inspire me with a lot of confidence heading into this week, even on a free hit. But I think Jordan Pickford is probably as close to what you're going to get.
I think keepers have become a lot more interesting. I wouldn't normally dwell on keepers, but I feel like with Alisson now returning and back in the team, it wasn't as if he came, he looked leggy or anything. He was just back in the team, straight away back in the team. Can we go for him? Now that especially we're not sure as much about Liverpool attackers as well. They've looked poor of late. Is there perhaps more of an argument to go for him and use a Liverpool slot on Alisson?
For sure, there is. But again, the assumption in this draft that I've made is that you'd want to go with two Liverpool attackers simply because of the upside that they have. They're projected to score the highest number of goals in the game week. Salah sort of picks himself. So you want that extra upside differential to, let's say, the rest of the pack who are not free hitting, which is why I've gone with double attack over double defense. But yeah, I definitely have one of Alisson or a Liverpool defender, and that makes a lot of sense. Unless a lot depends on the game against Atalanta. Unless the attack is looking almost impossible to predict, then there's a case of going double defense because you'd want triple Liverpool. I totally get the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and I agree with you as well. I think Pickford is a great pick just because you're not going to want any other Everton, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Let's move on to the defenders then.
Yeah, so I've gone with Van Dijk as my choice of the Liverpool defense because I don't think that you can count on Trent to start 3 games in the span of 1 week. We know he has the upside, and he could be a beautiful differential if he comes off for people who are free hitting. But again, expected minutes are king in this game. That's how I play, and I'm just not really sure about his fitness. Even if he starts against Atalanta, we could easily see Gomez playing right back at the weekend. I know Liverpool haven't really kept as many clean sheets in recent times, but you've just got to back their defense given the fixtures. Yeah, Virgil is the most secure of their defenders. I guess Robertson is decent as well. I don't really hate the idea of going with Robertson because Tsimikas hasn't really performed. I don't think Tsimikas will play at all, but I've just gone Virgil for the security of starts.
I feel like this is the free hit right here. It's just how risky do you want to go? Now, people will say that going for Van Dijk when Trent is back is boring, but he is nailed to play 180 minutes across a double. Does Trent not tempt you? Could you find a way to squeeze him in on free hit? I know you've just given your reasoning there, but we know the upside that he has. Is it just down to minutes? Like, what would you need to see from him in the Atalanta game to go for him? Or is there just no real way you do it?
I do think he starts the Atalanta game. I don't think that will change much. But, the one thing which we're discussing about Trent will apply to almost all the picks here. And I believe that the key to sort of cracking the free hit in Gameweek 34 will be decoding the X minutes of players, the expected minutes. If you get these calls right, where you're guessing that for example, player X will play twice, and if he ends up playing twice, then you could hit gold. But if you end up getting that wrong, then you don't really want to be in a position where you're free hitting for people who are playing 120 minutes or not playing more than 150 minutes, which is what you're ideally looking for. So one of the key things which I've sort of ensured in this draft is to pick as close to nailed players, as many of them as possible, because that's what gives you the highest probability of hitting those point hauls.
Okay, let's move on to Arsenal now. I think the really interesting thing here is whether you double up on the Arsenal defense or double up in midfield. A lot of managers that are obviously not on free hit this week, like us, will have double Arsenal defence. Is there a chance to go upside chasing with double midfield? That's got to be one of the big questions for free hitters. So tell us, how many Arsenal defenders are you going with in this draft?
I'm going with two actually.
Are you? Oh,
Again, because
that really surprises me. Okay, wow.
when we discussed the Arsenal defense versus Arsenal attack last week, I sort of had this idea in my head that, going for double Arsenal attack would probably give you more upside. But now with sort of doubts over Odegaard's minutes, he came off with an injury. I don't know whether he's expected to be fine. I just think the safer option is to go with double Arsenal defense because, again, I don't really want to double up on Everton. Their defense does not really inspire me with a lot of confidence. And I guess you can go with the Crystal Palace defender in this spot, probably someone like a Munoz who's playing right wing back and is fairly attacking. But again, it's just the fact that I want some of those picks in attack because I'm finding effective minutes really, really hard to call for the majority of this draft. And the Arsenal defense is, that's by far the best defense for fewest big chances and XG conceded this season. So I'd expect at least one clean sheet, if not two. I've gone Gabriel and White. White is my pick over Saliba because of the extra attacking threat that he possesses. I don't think there's much between them, to be very honest. You can go Saliba if you want. But yeah, I think I'll slightly lean towards double Arsenal defense, even though I'm not exactly confident. And I think that double Arsenal attack is totally viable as well if you go with Saka, Havertz, and go with Gabriel and Munoz in defense. I think that's perfectly viable as well.
Yeah, I feel like Havertz is the one that perhaps people are looking at, but now his position, we're not entirely sure if he's going to keep playing in that sort of false nine role, dropping back into midfield.
Yeah, it's basically that.
Yeah, and also Odegaard. If Odegaard is injured or whatever, that obviously massively impacts the Arsenal attack and Havertz as well. It's a similar question to Trent. I mean, how much upside do you want to chase? How risky do you want to be? If you do go for just one Arsenal defender on a free hit, you want them to concede. It's strange, but given ownership and the amount of managers that have more than one Arsenal defender, Raya as well, perhaps it's a weird one. But yeah, you are going to want them to concede, and having two is the only way to really make gains from the best defense in the league. I will say that the predicted points on Fantasy Football Hub agree with you in terms of the defenders you've chosen. White and Gabriel are clear of Saliba because of the attacking threat. Okay, let's move on to the midfield.
Yeah, in midfield, I'll start with Salah and Saka. I think there are two picks who sort of pick themselves. I will even go as far as saying that Eze and Olise pick themselves on the free hit.
Olise picks himself. Wow.
I think so. I think he's a bit of a must have.
Well, there we go, guys. You might have accused Bakar of being a little bit boring so far, but with the inclusion of Olise, I don't think that is boring at all. Now, let's just get straight to Olise because. Is he secured for minutes? Because you've been talking about minutes so far this video. He, to me, doesn't seem as nailed as the other 7 players that you've picked so far.
He should be secured for minutes, given that he started. He sort of played well. Now that he he has 2 great fixtures at home, he should be playing. I mean, the 3-4-3 system for the new manager has worked a treat, and you can see Eze and Olise playing either side of Mateta. I think it's likely to continue. And why change a winning formula especially with the fixtures that they have? Now, West Ham are a porous defense, extremely porous defense. Newcastle, I know they've kept 2 clean sheets back to back, but I think it's down to luck more than anything else. Their underlines are still pretty terrible if you look at it over a longer sample size, especially this calendar year. So you'd back Palace to score, let's say, at least thrice in these 2 games combined. And if they are scoring thrice, then the likes of Eze, Olise, you'd expect them to be involved. I like them slightly more than Mateta, given the fact that they're midfielders. They're likely to get an extra point for a goal, clean sheet. They're on set pieces, so they have plenty of routes to bonus points. Even though Mateta's underlines are really good as well, I own him on my own team, and I think he would be sort of close to making my team as well. But I definitely would have Eze and Olise in my free hit draft.
Wow.
I just think with doubts over the likes of Luis Diaz, Darwin, Odegaard, Havertz, a lot of these picks don't have the fixtures nor the security of minutes. So going for double Palace attack, especially the midfielders on a free hit, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And again, the predicted points agree with you. Eze is obviously clear, and on penalties, as you say, that's a bit of a no-brainer. But Olise above Mateta in terms of predicted points is not something that I would have expected. But he is expected to get not many more, but just 0.7 more points than Mateta. And yeah, I think, as you say, the chaos surrounding midfielders that looked kind of nailed on for the best 34 team in terms of, like a Diaz or a Havertz. That has sort of dissipated a little bit, or it's become more confusing, which I think is good for managers on free hit 34, because you can now safely, I think, go with a player like Elise and just see what happens, and that the upside is there. And perhaps people like me and you that, well, I've got Diaz, doesn't look as good, and yeah, I would go for an Elise over him this week if I could. Wow, what a midfield. The question is, are you going for 5 or for 4?
I think that question will be answered after the Liverpool game against Atalanta, because it's really, really difficult to call the expected minutes right now. But this slot is basically reserved for whoever out of Darwin, Jota, or Diaz looks good on Thursday. And I think Klopp will change something, because the attack hasn't really clicked over the past few weeks. And if he sort of finds a winning formula that is working, he'll stick to it. So after midweek, we'll have a good idea of which one of Jota, Diaz, or Darwin look good to start. So I haven't really picked a player over here. You can pick Diaz, you can pick Jota, you can pick
Let's
Nunes,
leave this slot for now. So it's just and your third Liverpool player.
It's basically a Liverpool slot, yeah.
Okay, that's yeah. So you are going to triple up on Liverpool and double up on the attack. I mean, unless something goes seriously wrong in the Atalanta game. But yeah, okay, makes sense. Let's just leave that slot for now. We'll come to it at the end, and we'll put one of them in, just based on what you're thinking right now. So let's move on then to the forwards. Who have you got there?
So I think Dom Solanke is a bit of a boring pick, but he has been in our team for ages, and we don't really need to find a way to differentiate. I think he's boring for a reason, because he's sensible. He's on pens. The Bournemouth attack is fine as well. I think there's a good chance that they score in both fixtures. So I think Solanke would make the team.
Okay.
And the final slot in my team would go to Mateta for all the reasons we mentioned earlier. Now,
wow, treble up on the Palace attack. Wow.
Exactly. I was going to come to it. It's just because I fancy them in these fixtures. And because, his underlyings are decent as well. He's getting plenty of chances. He had 3 big chances against Liverpool. But in this slot, I guess you can choose to go with vibes, basically. You can choose to go with Cunha if you want, or even someone like a Berrington Diaz or McBurney for Sheffield United. I know it sounds crazy going for a Sheffield United player, but like they do have Burnley at home and Man United away, who are like statistically among the worst defenses in the league. So I won't be surprised if you get lucky and get a goal out of either Berrington Diaz or McBurney. I think they're all right picks. I don't think they're bad, and they're nailed as well. So that kind of helps. But I've gone with Mateta because you want to be backing the Palace attack over the Sheffield United attack. I mean,
yes.
In theory, it sort of looks all right, but I don't think I'd be able to bring myself to own a Sheffield United attacker realistically. But yeah, that's one of the things. I actually want to sort of touch upon which of these picks should be close to being nailed in the team and which of these should be up for debate.
Yeah.
So realistically, from the 11 that we've spoken about, I think maybe the double Arsenal defense, probably Gabriel. Okay, I won't call White as a must-have because you can go different with Odegaard. I think Gabriel is a must-have. Saka, Olise, Salah, Eze, Solanke. That's 6.
Wow, at least being must-have. I did not expect this from you, but I absolutely love it.
That's 6, and the 7th would basically be the Liverpool attacker. Yeah. So whichever one of them looks good on Thursday would form part of the spine that I would call or label as close to being nailed on the free hit selection. Well, I think most people who are looking to differentiate can play. They can play around with the Pickford slot. You can go with someone like a Henderson or Allison. Similarly, with the Virgil slot, you can or the White slot, you can go with the Everton defender, maybe a Mikalenko or Munoz, someone like that. In midfield, you can perhaps look at Havertz if you don't want White as the Arsenal defender over someone like a Mateta. Mateta could be at risk from the Wolves guys, the Cunha or Berrington Diaz, McBurney. So these are the slots that that are sort of close. And honestly, you should go with vibes because it's gonna come down to a roll of the dice. We're splitting hairs here, to be very honest, because it's so close and the calls are so marginal that you should back your gut instincts, especially in the case of these 4 slots. There's not much to pick between them at all. Just go with your gut. My guesses are as good as yours as regards to who the Liverpool attacker of choice is. But with the rest of the team, I think I hopefully have come up with a decent draft which should get a lot of points for people who are free hitting.
Okay, I'm going to ask you just so we can round off the team. out of the Liverpool players right now, who would you be going for?
I think maybe Luis Diaz.
Okay. And why is that?
But
Security?
I can't say this with any degree of confidence, but yeah, just have a feeling that he's maybe slightly like maybe 0.1% more secure than Darwin. That's the feeling that I have in my head, but I might be completely wrong.
Okay, sure thing. Let's round off the team with some bench players, and then we will see what predicted points and game week rating it gets. Okay, Bakar, here is the finished team up on screen. I've chucked in a couple of bench players as well that you mentioned. Bench players obviously not massively important in a double when you're not on bench boost, but you never know. Someone could come out of the team and yeah, you might need to use your first bench. Who knows? But yeah, team looks strong. Game week rating of 97%, 122.8 predicted points, which obviously is very impressive, but it actually means that there's a little bit of room for improvement according to Fantasy Football Hub's AI and underlying data. But you got to be happy with that. You know, if I offered you 123 points in the double, would you take that?
With both hands.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. Last thing to ask you about before we get on to the AI's recommended team and see how that is a little bit different from yours is captaincy. Who is the best captain this week, do you think?
Salah. I think you can argue that he hasn't really been playing that well, but statistically, from a FPL point of view, he's still getting the chances. He's still creating chances. It's just the finishing which has been the problem. And because Liverpool are projected to score the highest number of goals, and Salah is like, by far the bookmakers' most likeliest player to return anytime, I think he's the most secure captain.
Yeah. Okay. And to be fair, he does have the highest predicted points by a decent way. All right, guys. So that is Bakar's optimal free hit team. Let's now finally have a look at the AI team from Fantasy Football Hub and see where Bakar potentially could make up this 3% to get to 100% game week rating. Okay, my friend, here is the best game week 34 free hit team up on screen according to Fantasy Football Hub's AI. Now, usually, guys, I'm going to be honest, you have to sign up to the site to see this. But I thought for this video, we'll just show it to you guys. Also, as you can see, top of the screen, if you want to get your team rated for free, just like Bakar has done with his free hit, if you want to do the same with yours and see how many predicted points you have, and obviously your game week percentage out of 100, then link to do so for free, that is, down below in the description. But yeah, here we go, my friend. This is the team for 34. I want to hear your thoughts. Now, crazily, there is a Sheffield United player in the starting 11, one that you mentioned, which is pretty mental. Right, let's go through it. Henderson in goal. Instantly, the triple attack is off. The dream is gone. What do you think?
That's fine. I think Henderson is as good a pick as Pickford, if not better, so that's fine.
Back three, very similar to you, but they've gone for Trent. Trent has higher expected points, predicted points than Virgil van Dijk.
It's because it's because they expect him to start, both which could happen. I mean, we just received news that Connor Bradley is out for 3 weeks. So I mean, it could happen.
Wow.
That might change a few things over there. But again, it's not more about Bradley's unavailability. It's just the fact that he's just coming back from injury himself. Whether he's fit enough to play, 3 games in 6 days is the big question mark.
Yeah, it's risk reward because you can't just like get him and then have Van Dijk first sub or have another defender first sub. You know that Trent is going to play minutes. It's just how many minutes and if you want to risk it or not. Into midfield now, 3 of them are the same, but it's Brereton Diaz that has come in place of Elise. He actually has 0.7 more predicted points than Michael Elise. United away, Burnley at home. Now, any other team, you're thinking, those are absolutely plum fixtures, captain that man. However, it is Sheffield United.
Exactly. And, while I mentioned that, Burnley and United are one of the worst defenses in the league, well, Sheffield United are by far the worst attack in the league. So it works both ways, right?
But Diaz has been looking good of late. He's got some goals. He looks threatening.
I don't hate the pick. I don't hate the pick. Honestly,
you did mention him, to be fair.
I sort of said that it's very close between him, McBurney, and Mateta. It's very, very close. I don't hate the idea. It's perfectly fine. I respect the AI's opinion. It's something which makes sense.
And then finally up front, Solanke is in. Darwin is the pick that they've gone for as the second Liverpool attacker. It's actually extremely close between Darwin and Diaz in terms of predicted points, and also really between like Mateta and Brereton Diaz. I think that's, as you said, more of a gut feel sort of vibe pick. And then it's Cunha that's come in as the last striker, which I think is interesting because Arsenal at home is obviously a very tough fixture. Bournemouth at home, a good fixture, and he did look very good last game week, obviously picking up those 2 goals. But similarly, just back from an injury, what do you think about his minutes?
I think his minutes should be secure now that he started. Wolves have a week of rest. I'd expect him to play both. I don't mind Cunha as well. I think
Okay.
you can sort of put Cunha, Mateta, McBurney, Brenton Diaz in the same category.
Okay. So there we go. That is how the AI team differentiates from yours. Has that made you change your opinion at all on what you're thinking, or you know the reasons why it's a higher percentage, but you're happy with what you've picked?
I'm very happy because I mentioned 7 players to form the core of the team and to be part of that spine, and the AI sort of endorses the nail players that I've picked. The only places where it's sort of gone different is in the slots where I was having a bit of doubt with my selections myself. So it's perfectly fine. And again, at the end of the day, it will come down to variance.
Absolutely. Okay then, guys, that is going to do it. That is Bakar's optimal free hit team 434. If you're on free hit, I'm jealous. Good luck. I don't want you to do that well, but being on a free hit in a double is so much more fun, I will say, than being on a free hit in a blank. And we all know how blank 29 went. Not that enjoyable. So yeah, hopefully there's a bit more enjoyment for people on free hit this week. I would say personally, have some fun. I love the Elise shout. I think he'd be in there for me as well. You've persuaded me to go for Elise. Triple Palace attack. Wow, crazy. Bakar, thank you, mate. And yeah, guys, good luck
Cheers.
if you're on free hit.